The first time I ever got on stage and called it stand-up, I did 45 minutes.
In Mike's Sandwich Shop.
Yes, and I'm sure it sucked. And I'm worried. I still get up at 4 o'clock in the morning thinking, did somebody film that? Is that going to come out somewhere? But anyway, there was a big window in front of the sandwich shop, and he said, I'll give you the door money, and I'll make money off the sandwiches. And Chuck Morgan would drive with 3 babies. By then, I had 3. In a minivan back and forth, and people would say, Chuck's driving behind you, because it was a little town, everybody knew us. And I had to go to an ear, nose, and throat doctor that day because I could not move my neck because I thought something was terrible wrong with me. He looked like Tim McGraw, by the way. And I said, something is bad wrong with me. Do I have cancer? And he said, I think you are so scared about... Because I said, I'm doing this thing tonight. He said, I think you are scared stiff.
It was nerves. You were literally scared stiff.
I was scared stiff.
Wow.
Once I got on stage, I was fine. And I had a
Isn't
little...
the moment you stood in front of that microphone, you're right, that the moment you walked in and you got in front of the microphone, the nerves in your neck relaxed and...
I was fine.
You were fine.
And it felt like home. It felt like, okay, girl.
I know exactly what that feeling is because I'd been doing news in Baltimore and had gotten removed from the news and they didn't know what to do with me and they put me on a talk show. And the very first day I did that talk show, it felt like coming home. I felt like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And you knew that too.
Mm-hmm. I knew it. And in the middle of all that...
And that was the first time you got paid, like physically paid,
I got paid. And he said, can you do it again? And so I would do it, I think, once a month. And it was kind of like a little one-woman show. And it would sell out every time. And then, but in the middle of all that, there was upheaval. Like, Chuck was trying to figure out, a young man had this business, but he had all these employees and back and forth where... we moved to Myrtle Beach for a little while. His dad took over the business, so he thought he wanted to do something else. We came back to Morristown, and we didn't have any money, and he bought his dad, we always had this business called Refurb Co. where you refurbish used mobile homes, and his dad had a double wide that had been set on fire. Somebody was going to repo it. Had been set on fire. You could see black marks from smoke. When somebody's about to lose their home, a lot of times they'll take a hammer and knock the sinks out and stuff like that. God love them. Okay, so Chuck said, just trust me, Leanne. I want to move us back. I'm going to work for this big mobile home manufacturing company that's now Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett company. But he said, just trust me. I'm going to put us in this double wide that's been set on fire out in the middle of this lot. But I'll be able to turn it. And we'll make a bunch of money off of it. I'm going to flip it. And then we'll buy, because we had a beautiful home. I was a member of a country club for the first time in my life before all this happened. I took my little children up there and we had a pool. Because I was raised there, I had to swim in a pond with Converse high top tennis shoes on because there were turtles in it. Okay. Anyway, I had a pool. I had this wonderful life. And it was a wonderful life. And then he decided some little upheaval in his, career and what he wanted.
So you all had moved and you came back.
Moved and came back.
So you lost that house because
we sold that house and sold everything so we could go and do this new venture. Then we got there and realized this is not what he needs to be doing. He took the LSAT, was going to go to law school. I found out I was pregnant with my 3rd baby. He said, I can't do that. We got too many babies. So we came back. He put me in this double wide. And I
what did you do when you first saw that double wide?
Oh, and nothing against people having to live in manufactured homes, but I was devastated. I thought, and my little mom and daddy.
It didn't have back stairs, right? Because
it didn't have back stairs, and he owned a mobile home company where he had stairs in a field, 1 million of them. So I don't know if he was just overwhelmed, but I would have to throw my babies up in it, and I was big pregnant and had to get my leg up in it, and then they put indoor carpet in it, and that had been out and been weathered, rained on and stuff. Goodness. So we all had mold and allergies. My sister at the same time was getting married to this hoop-de-doo man. And I remember it was when Princess Di had passed away, because I remember sitting on the couch and watching that Princess Di had passed away, and Beth was planning her wedding to this hoop-de-doo man.
We all remember that, isn't it?
And that's when I was in that double wide. And But I remember getting locked out of the double wide. It's in the book about I got locked out of the double wide. I was big pregnant with Tess, my baby. I had to walk down the road with 2 babies and 2 car seats. And so this little woman could drive me to Morristown to go. I went to church on Wednesday night because there was a meal. And all my friends were there, and Miss Betty cooked, and it was social for me, and I was so, isolated.
So we moved out here in the country.
We moved me out there with the double wide, was out in the country, and I had to ride with this God lover, pitiful woman that said the F word in front of my children and smoked generic cigarettes that smelled so bad. And she gave me a ride, God love her. And I was in this little bitty car that the floor was rusted out, and I could see the highway under my feet, and I had to prop my feet up on this so that my feet wouldn't get torn on the road. And my little children were holding hands in the back, and Charlie said, "Nice car you got here." He was about 3. And I drove up. I remember riding down the road and saying, I just felt so like, how did my life turn to this?
How am I in a rusted art car?
How did I get here? And I prayed about it. I said, God, what have I done? I know I did some things in the 80s I shouldn't have. But what did I do to get this? And I promise you, as God is my witness, he spoke to me, and it wasn't an audible. It's in my soul. God said, just hold on, Leanne. I got you. This story's gonna be told. There's a reason for all of this.
This was a feeling you had. I
had a feeling.
In that car where you can see
I felt like he spoke to me, and like I say, it wasn't like Morgan Freeman speaking to me. It was in my soul. He said, there's a reason. Hold on. There's a reason, Leanne. And I was like, okay. But I've had several of those moments in my life.
Yeah.
And now I can look back. And I just know, when you think your gut, whatever you call it, I feel like that's God speaking to me. And he was with me.
You call them God moments. I call them God moments, God winks. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Wasn't there a moment where you thought, okay, maybe I'm just going to throw in the towel?
And yes, it was my early 50s, and it really was not going well. And I was working a lot, but it wasn't the work I wanted. I just knew in my heart, this is not, I wanted to be like Jim Gaffigan, Nate Bargatze, all these people I admired. And I thought, these are horrible gigs. I'm staying in a hotel on the side of the interstate. I don't feel safe. I just thought, I just had it. And I broke down. We were at dinner at a restaurant.
Before you tell that story, but when you were 42, like out of a fairy tale, a Hollywood producer called, right?
Yes.
Saying he wanted to create a sitcom based on your life.
Yes.
Pitching you as the next Roseanne, right? You flew to Los Angeles for meetings, and then what happened?
The writer's strike hit. We sold it to ABC before we got out of the parking lot. And the writer's strike hit. That first writer's strike hit when, then reality show became such a big deal.
Reality shows came, yeah.
And they said, it's over. And one day they go, oh, sorry, Leanne, it's over. And I was flying back and forth. They were starting to talk about casting.
I remember that summer of the writer's strike, and that's when all the reality shows started because there were no writers. Yes.
Yes. And here I was in the middle. I was in Knoxville. I'd started out, we had been moved to San Antonio to be over South Texas for his company. I started really doing stand-up in Austin, Texas. And that's how I got that first deal. And then we moved back to Knoxville, and I got the television deal. And then after that, I feel like I went into a deep depression. That was my first rodeo with Hollywood. It did not happen, and I was on this high, and then it was over, and it was just like nobody cares anymore. I couldn't get booked.